Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for everyone for being here today. This is Labor Day week, Labor Day every day, right? We celebrate the labor of those working in cultural heritage every day because this work is valuable. You are valuable, and we are so grateful that you wanted to spend some time with the National Council on Public History today. Today, we are going to listen to a conversation titled Cultivating Community for Cultural Workers Through Mutual Aid. It's a part of the Sustaining Ourselves Practical Tools and Community Conversation series. This session was organized by the National Council on Public History's Advocacy Committee and the Labor Task Force. This series will be ongoing. Our next session will be in October in partnership with the Professional Development Committee. Future sessions will be done in partnership with the National Council on Public History's Curriculum and Training Committee, the Students and Youth Professionals Committee, the Consultants Committee, etc. We are doing our best to listen to different perspectives across the cultural heritage sector so we can help create tools and spaces for conversation that help you through difficult times, joyful days, whatever you are looking for and needing right now as we navigate a unstable work environment. I'm going to pass it over to our wonderful presenters who helped organize the Cultural Keeper Mutual Aid Network. If questions arise during our presentation, feel free to go ahead and throw them in the chat. We will have a Q&A following their conversation. We want to hear what you need to help foster community right now, tomorrow, and going into the future. We are here to help you and to help have a wonderful discourse on mutual aid networks. So I'm passing it over. Gerald?
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you to the National Council on Public History for providing this space. I'm just going to start off the introductions and then we'll circle back around to the Cultural Keeper Mutual Aid Network work that we've been doing. My name is Gerald Crook. I am based in Alabama. Whoa, hello. I'm based in Atlanta. I've been in Alabama for the past 3 weeks because that's where I'm originally from. That's where my W-2 job is located. I work for the Alabama African American Civil Rights Heritage Sites Consortium. A mouthful, I know. But that's an organization that is a steward, or we try to support 23 civil rights heritage sites across the state. So that's what I do during the day. And that's what pays the bills. But Higher Ground Society is what brought the Culture Keeper Network around, which is it's an organization that I created when I graduated from undergrad and could not get a job in the nonprofit sector like I wanted. So it's like I want to create a space or create my own opportunities for me to be an advocate for the things that I cared about, which is again the arts and the humanities, social justice, and the environment. And so Higher Ground Society exists to provide arts and humanities programming for communities across Alabama with the hope of fostering understanding and community. And again, we primarily serve Alabama communities, though, as you'll see with the Cultural Keeper Network, we're kind of branching out and providing support for other people, other places. So that's me. I'm going to throw it over to the first person I see on my team, which is Harvey, and then Jacob and Shannon. You guys can introduce yourselves as well.
Hi, I'm Harvey White. I am a public historian and I say arts advocate. I'm based in Columbia, South Carolina, by way of Atlanta, by way of Bossier City, Louisiana. I've been doing a tour across the South. Um, I'm happy to be here. I've held multiple positions in various museums, but my work as a public historian has been very meaningful to me, touching base on a personal level with communities. Is something that I'm passionate about and some work that I love to do. So I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful to Gerald for bringing me into to this project, his baby. Um, Happy to be here. I'll ping it over to Jacob.
Thanks, Harvey. And just echoing Your thanks to Gerald for inviting me on to be a part of this program as well. My name is Jacob Pelletier. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm based out of the mountains in Washington, Vermont, so our Northeast representative here. I currently work as a community programs officer for Vermont Humanities, so the statewide affiliate from the National Endowment from the Humanities. So it's been an interesting few times, and we're lucky enough where we're moving through that work and still doing a lot of our grants and other public literacy and speaker programs, even given the federal cut based this spring. But yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of this. Community organizing has been a part of my life, all throughout high school, college, through the Peace Corps, and now, and just excited to kind of lend that support through this initiative now here. And Shannon, I believe you're up.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon Stokes. I am based in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but originally from South Florida. I am currently the Vice President of Strategy and Community Impact at Arts Council of Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, and this month celebrating 6 years here at the Arts Council. In my role and in my passion for arts and culture, I live in the creative placemaking space. So working with community, amplifying diverse voices through storytelling and activating community in a positive way through arts and culture. For the last 3 years, I've been really doing a deep dive in the space of arts and health and arts and healing, and have founded a collective space in East Winston-Salem, which is historically a Black neighborhood, called Healing Unlimited Wellness Collective, which is grounded in healing justice. Also a mindfulness practitioner, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but I'm excited to be here and a part of the conversation with Higher Ground Society.
Excellent. I am so grateful that these three beautiful souls have endeavored to um, embark down this crazy journey with me. Because as you'll find out as we talk about this process, it's literally we are building the plane as we fly it, which is very common in this space. But it's been very, very rewarding. I'm learning from them. I hope we're all learning from each other. And yeah, so just background on the Culture Keeper Mutual Aid Network. Again, first, Higher Ground Society, again, it's arts and humanities programming. So that's what you're seeing kind of scroll through is some glimpses of the things that we've done over the past 10 years, which is how long we've been around. Well, actually, 10 going on 11 years at this point. But more specifically, the Culture Keeper Mutual Aid Network came about really in November of last year when I don't know, like an election happened or something. And I was like, yeah, I really want to get into writing. Well, before the election, I was like, I really want to get into writing and I really want to, start getting back into writing and do some more creative things. And then the election happened and I was like, oh crap. Resources and whatnot are probably going to be going away. And then January happened, and it was like, oh crap, the resources are going like now. I was thinking it was going to take a few years, but this administration is very enthusiastic. And so it was all about trying to figure out a way to respond to the threat of the cultural sector. More specifically, before being at the consortium, I worked for the Alabama Humanities Alliance and Georgia Humanities Council. That's how Jacob and I met each other back literally just in March. We were up in Annapolis, Maryland, preparing for the Smithsonian's Museum on Main Street program. And so that's where we met. And before then, like we have our annual conference every November. And so it's always I was inspired by this togetherness, this community of people in the humanities being together, doing incredible work. And I just could not let that go. And what really, really forced the envelope was the fact that so I was a programs officer at the humanities here in Georgia, and as such, I was helping facilitate a constituent group of all the programs officers across the state, country. That was me and two other folks from different states. I won't, point them out, but at the beginning of March, this was even before the dogening happened. One of my colleagues was like got the notice that she was going to be laid off or furloughed at that point. So she was furloughed, and then I was actually fired from my job at the end of March, and then The third person was fired from their job at the beginning of April. So all three of the original facilitators of the constituent group were gone, and it was partially for a lot of us because of the environment, the climate that we were in. And so with that first friend who was furloughed, I was super, super concerned. I mean, they were pretty young, younger than I am, I think. I'm 35. And so I'm just thinking about like youth in the nonprofit space, in the humanities, how do we keep these people afloat? And so I was like, we got to figure out a mutual aid situation. And I reached out to one of my higher ups, an executive director at another humanities council, and they were like, oh, this is a great idea, but maybe you just want to like keep it cool for now because we don't know how things are going to go. So just play it cool. And then, a few weeks later in March, dogening, happened. And so that kicked things into high gear. And it basically came out of my experience or my admiration for some friends in Montgomery, Alabama. A lot of them are, people who worked with or formerly worked with or currently work with ACLU Alabama or Equal Justice Initiative or just other community organizations there, and they are a firehouse or a firehouse too, of community organizing, and their mutual aid that they developed during COVID was absolutely incredible. So it's like, I want to replicate that. And so the goal is essentially to figure out a way to keep cultural workers paid, make sure that they have their bills paid for, that they had food, the basic necessities, and then also trying to figure out ways to keep us employed and also just encouraged. And so I'm going to hand it over to Shannon to talk about the first thing that we developed, which is it's not first on this list, but the Cultural Keeper Mutual Aid Network career workshops. So over to you, Shannon.
Thank you, Gerald. I am excited to talk about this portion of the Culture Keepers Mutual Aid Network because professional development is so critical, especially after being laid off for a job or just trying to find a way to navigate a huge change. And Gerald and I actually met in 2022 through a professional development program with South Arts called Leaders of Color. And since then have been a part of several meetups and continuing to obviously work together and find ways to engage. And having that community, especially during a critical time of transition, is so important. And so, Gerald had a relationship with Benita Bird Giles, who reached out to in on him to make sure he was okay during his transition. And as Gerald is, always thinking about everybody else, was like, hey, the information you're sharing, I think, people will be interested to hear. And so the first workshop we held in the end of March, March 29th, it was called the Art of Career Transition. And obviously, it was tailored toward those who were in that space of career transition. But I think it was beneficial for really anybody who is thinking about a career change or thinking about what's next in these uncertain times. And really, for us, it was just like those that are in the arts and culture sector. Like we're seeing the writing on the wall. Like, what are the things we can do to prepare ourselves if something should happen and thinking ahead. And so it was a really great workshop. Bonita told her story about how she became, in the space that she's in terms of like career coaching and being a consultant for different strategy agencies. And but one of the things that really stuck out overall was just like, your career path is not linear. Right. And obviously, there are situations that will sometimes throw you a curveball. But thinking about our experience in different ways is so important. Like, what are those transferable skills? And since a lot of us have been out of college for quite some time, or with formal education, it was a nice reminder to think about like what are those ways that we are working our network and having those conversations and not feeling shame about them, being real about your needs and but also putting together a strategy of how to engage with your network and turn those meetings into some opportunities. One of the things she talks about is about, creating the list of all the people you know and reaching out to them, working your LinkedIn, updating your profile, also scheduling informational interviews, something that I haven't done in years, but it was a good reminder to know, like, hey, yes, these are things we need to be thinking about, and really maybe something we should be practicing on a regular basis as we continue to, grow and evolve in our career and network. Um, what else would I like to share? So yeah, so that was the first thing that we offered as a part of this program, and obviously we want to continue to create programs, uh, and based on what folks feel is most beneficial. Gerald and I are in current conversation about doing something around the wellness space, in particular mindfulness, and this whole process of losing a job. And so, in my background of which is it was just stress-based reduction and using mindfulness as a tool for stress-based reduction, in particular the workplace. Um, we're going to have a conversation about what that looks like and what we can offer. And so, be on the lookout for that coming soon. And I will pass it back over to Gerald.
Yeah, that's really it. And like we only did the one, and I want to reiterate, this is all volunteer based. Like I don't get paid for any work that I do with Higher Ground Society, and these three beautiful souls again are donating their time and their expertise as well. So um, the workshops. We did that first one, and I got a job, so I got busy. So the workshop worked. Uh, but they're going to continue to roll out, as Shannon said. So by all means, if you have any ideas or any suggestions and kinds of workshops you would like to see, please throw them our way. You can email us later if you have those ideas, and we'll definitely fold those into see what we can do to bring it about. And so I guess the next person is going to be Harvey to talk about the register.
Thank you, cool beans. So as part of the Cultural Keeper Network, we also have a register, which is basically a directory, um, directory of artists, of historians, of all the things encompassed in arts and humanities. That is free to join. So recognizing that we are in a gig economy, it's important for us to recognize that. But this is a way of us to create a roster. If you have any interests, um, any arts disciplines or humanities-based disciplines that are better. I was about to say it looks better in mobile view, so check it out on your phone first. You can join this register, join this directory, and as people come to Gerald, come to me, come to Shannon and Jacob, needing people for temporary contracts, or I need a filmmaker, I need somebody to lead a workshop, we can refer them to this registry to look at names, to look at resumes and bios. Um, as I said, it's free to join. You don't have to give to the mutual aid in order to be a part of this registry. We wanted it to be accessible in that way, recognizing that not everybody's going to be able to give to the mutual aid. Um, and you don't have to you can put as much information as you want to. Some people have their full contact me. You can also put that you have to contact Higher Ground Society as well. If you are looking at this registry as somebody who wants to contract someone, please note that we don't, at the moment, we are not vetting anybody in terms of like background checks and all that information. We're providing you with the baseline of here's somebody who says that they can do this work. Then it's up to you to do that research on the back end to make sure that they are what you need. Thank you. Here's the registration form. It is on that homepage for the Cultural Keeper website. And it's pretty thorough. I just added mine today and it took me all of 30 seconds to do. Um, but yeah, this is just a way of us thinking about people who are either in transition between jobs or who just want to do extra kind of consulting work on the side. We'll let you do the whole thing. Okay, there you go. Yeah, I think that's about it. It's something that's growing. We're trying it out. I was telling Gerald yesterday, it's a the contact us and we'll kind of send the information. If this gets too big, we might have to rethink that. But like you said before, we're definitely building the plane as we fly it. So this is one of those things that we would like to try.
Excellent. Thank you, Harvey. And I just saw that the National Council on Public History is looking for like some historians to do some cool work with the National Park Service, so that will be a great a way for you guys, the council, to just come here and like peek through here, see if you see anybody that has relevant expertise in that space. Or I mean, I'm not connected, but I somehow end up people always ask me like end up asking me things, or if I know somebody about this, and this, and I can go through my mental Rolodex, but it's definitely helpful if I can go to this website or go to a space, and just kind of point people in that direction to look for themselves, or use this as a reference. And so I definitely encourage you guys to, if you're interested, please share your information through this registration form. And as you can see too, there's a distinction between arts and humanities. We try to make it easy. So if you're looking for something specifically for arts, like you're looking for an artist to help you interpret your history process or whatever, you can go there. If you're just looking for a historian or a literary person, you can go to humanities. And so, yeah, again, always open to suggestions. But that was the first two things that we were able to get off the ground because they were relatively easy, even though the registry list just got posted this morning. That's because I was trying to figure out my website, but we're good. But the big behemoth of it, the biggest lift and the scariest for me, though super rewarding, is the mutual aid fund in and of itself. And so Jacob's going to talk about that.
Yeah, thanks. So like Gerald mentioned, the mutual aid fund is definitely one of the bigger projects we've started kind of through this process. Again, in response to a lot of the funding cuts that happened kind of immediately in the year and throughout the spring, we were thinking of like, what can we do to really help support folks that need that little bump to get them through the next month, to get them to that next job search? What are ways we can support our community in different ways? Even though we know that this is a struggling time for a lot of folks. And so this is where the idea for the Mutual Aid Fund came from. And what it is a financial relief initiative for cultural workers, artists, scholars, professionals in museums, librarians, again, kind of experiencing that hardship. And this is a way that we can try to offset this. And so what the fund does is people and organizations can donate to the fund with a minimum of $10. This can be a one-time donation or occasionally or monthly. We use the Give Butter platform, so there's a lot of different ways you can kind of customize how you would like to give through that. And then as we kind of contribute to this fund, we will identify whether you are a cultural keeper or a friend. And so the cultural keepers are those folks that I mentioned who are directly working in the arts and humanities space. And the friends are those individuals or organizations that support the work, but maybe aren't directly involved in those projects. And so the idea is that anyone can participate, but the keepers are the only ones that can request funds from this mutual aid group. And right now we're starting to build our funds. We launched this in, I believe, mid-August, so it's still pretty new, but we're getting some more registrations and building up our fund so we can start getting those requests in for aid. The idea is that we'll kind of at least hit our $300 maximum amount that we can award per person, and have that in the fund before we start giving these out. And you'll see on the screen here, Gerald has pulled up kind of like our different FAQ sheets that are all on the website there. And I guess the last thing is like kind of what people can request aid for, because we kind of made a few different distinctions here to kind of give priority to some of those things that are need right away versus things that maybe have a longer process or can be kind of argued through claims or billings. So as you'll see here, we'll kind of award the tier one with rent and mortgage costs, food and groceries, utility bills, those things that people need to be successful and survive. And then going into those tier two ones, which again are kind of a little more complicated, might have more claims, like we think of medical bills and all the different processes and organizations that support hospitals for low income folks. And so those are just kind of like the different divisions that we've put there. And like we mentioned, this is again, we're making this as we go along. So if there's any ideas or ways that this fund can get more notoriety or ideas you have for getting the word out for folks who may need the support, we'd love to hear from you all. But it's been exciting to see this get launched just the past few months.
Great. Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention we spent a lot of time, I think we spent the bulk of our time when we were developing this talking about like use of funds and getting really nitpicky. And what we didn't want to do was kind of gatekeep what people would need these funds for. So I think that's really important to note that when we were developing this, we did so with kind of open hearts.
Absolutely. And this list is not exhaustive. What you can create or request aid for. It's just an example. And what we anticipate people will probably run into the most or request for the most. Because eggs is still expensive. Milk is still expensive out here. So it's gas. So we get it. We want to acknowledge that. And it really, everything literally, the whole Culture Keeper network is literally just about creating community around our shared love of the work that we do, the important work that we do, and just how we can support each other the best way that we possibly can. I have these kinds of networks in my personal life, and I just want for everyone else to be able to find that as well. Again, Wallace Higher Ground Society is based in Alabama, in the South, the Southeast. We are really here for everybody. We're inviting everybody to come and be a part of this. It's not international yet, maybe, hopefully. Actually, I don't want to be international. That's going to open a can of worms, I'm sure. But we can definitely try to support our international friends as well. But they need to support us at this point because we're going through it. But that's it. That's all we have. If anybody has any other questions or anything else that we didn't
We're already getting questions in,
Okay.
so that's great. And as a nice segue for that, you all acknowledge that there are other mutual aid initiatives that exist that are out there, and I'm going to throw them in the chat. There's Museum Workers Speak, and I'm going to say these slowly so I can copy and paste. We have the Black Trowel Collective micro grants. I'm going to share a list of library and museums mutual aid networks. There's 15, 16 on this sheet for you all. And there's the newly launched Historic Preservation and Cultural Resources Mutual Aid Network, which is a beautiful segue into our first audience question. Please throw your audience questions into the chat, or if you'd like, you can raise your hand and ask them. But I also understand it's a Friday if you want to be off camera and quiet. No judgment there at all. So we have a number of people looking to figure out how they can support cultural workers. And we understand the cultural worker umbrella is broad. We have archaeologists, archivists, museum workers, we have consultants, we have government workers, right? We fit into a variety of buckets, while fundamentally we all share the same goal of connecting people to the past and culture and heritage in some capacity and working to preserve it in some capacity, whether it's through those built connections or actual physical preservation. So when we look at all these different networks, the question is it helpful to have multiple mutual aid networks or focused ones regionally? Or does it make more sense to invest and build up the existing ones and, build up existing ones, support existing ones and their potential growth? What makes sense as we are looking to our respective needs as individuals and our respective needs as a larger cultural movement that is built on partnerships?
Sure. Yeah, I think actually, as we talked about this, well, again, specifically talking about the humanities work, and the councils and how we're also just trying to create these communities there as well. And unfortunately, the conference, the national conference that I talked about, got canceled about a month or so ago. So the humanities folks will not be able to come together and vibe and support each other. Um, and so the programs officers are like, well, how can we, do this still maybe on a smaller schedule, smaller level? As a matter of fact, that's one of the other things I'm actually kind of toying with is putting on a humanities conference anyway in Atlanta. Just because I'm based here and I have connections to different universities and stuff, and so just still wanting to create that space for people to gather and support each other in that way. But yeah, the goal is to fill in the gaps wherever there's a gap. And so I didn't see this specifically, and this is partially, I'll be completely honest, it's because it was a panic moment and I didn't do a ton of research. I was just thinking of what needs to happen like now. So admitting that I didn't do research as a humanities person is awful, but I am vulnerable on what you're doing, who I am. But yeah, I just didn't see that happening specifically for our folks, to like again, our folks, the cultural workers. I didn't see that immediately. So again, if it gets too large, or if it gets large and you're seeing different pockets pop off in different corners of the state, I'm totally for those regions taking care of their own in that way. Again, this is not the here to be permanent. Hopefully, we shouldn't necessarily need mutual aid networks, but I'm all for it just serving whatever purpose it needs to in the moment for sure.
And I also think, oh, sorry, Shannon, did you want to speak?
No, go ahead. I'll follow.
Um, I think the more the merrier right now. I think of it as the same as when you get a grant. It's you can apply to multiple grants for the same for the same project. So each mutual aid is going to have its own set of different kind of rules and regulations. We are a smaller one. I think we have a $300 max at the moment. So if you need a smaller utility bill paid, it makes more sense to come to us. If you are kind of needing something larger and we don't have the capacity at this mutual aid, you can go to a larger one. It may be a little bit more competitive, but you can go to a larger mutual aid network for that. So I think for where we are right now, it's definitely a spread the wealth, the more the merrier kind of situation.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And this is my first time participating in a mutual aid program and fund. And a lot of the focus of where I am in North Carolina is Western North Carolina, a lot of emergency preparedness, recovery. And so I do feel a need that there's a need for a mutual aid fund, regardless of, where it's located. I think it's important to have that and make it available. So I think it's going to serve a good purpose.
Yeah, and kind of echo all of that. I think it's also important that us as kind of working through these mutual aid networks to just bring awareness that these issues are ongoing still. It's like they may have ups and downs in the immediacy or how much press coverage or how much people are in need at any given time. But these are still ongoing problems, and these problems were around before a lot of these kind of big changes happened this past year. And so just kind of being able to show that there are people out there that want to support and build this community connection across the country, I think is important at this time.
And you created the best segue to the next question. I've thought a lot about my experiences as someone who entered this field during the recession. And like you just said, a lot of these issues have existed. The devaluation of our labor, the layoffs in terms of crisis versus creative reimagining of budgets to retain staff, et cetera. So when we are looking at mutual aid efforts, are you thinking of them as something with an expiration date once a goal has been achieved or once a quote unquote crisis is over, or an effort that should be perpetually sustained? Or do you view it maybe as something that evolves to meet different needs at different times?
Sure, I think maybe a little of both. I personally, I've been leaning more towards society going towards a more like tribalism type vibe of, small pockets taking care of their own. I just again a very personal perspective. I feel like hyper independence and individualism is kind of like undermining a lot of our efforts to work together and that sort of thing. And so I'm really put everything in my mind in my life right now is community, 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 and that's in every way. So show up for folks, emotionally, financially, whatever. And so I think that fits into the mutual aid aspect. So I do think it should kind of become more ingrained in our society. I think I was somewhere recently and I just saw, so one of our sites, the consortium, has a site in West Alabama. It's the Federation, they have a really long name too, but it's the Federation of Land Cooperatives. Julia Brock, you're here. You probably know who I'm talking about over in Epps slash Gainesville, Alabama. But it's Southern farmers who have gotten together and they have a legacy or a heritage in the civil rights movement. And these black farmers who, in addition to everything else of being black in the 60s and before having faced that discrimination, they're also just trying to take care of their land. And so they've come together and they have this incredible network of cooperatives and educational initiatives where they're teaching folks how to take care of heirs property, that sort of thing. And it reaches across the entire region. And I was like, this is insane. This is exactly what we need. We were there, and they also, in addition to like the actual work, they're building community around food and just having a good time and dancing. And I was like, this is exactly what we need as a major national society. And so I'm all for championing that long term and for however long we need it. And again, I do think it needs to be long term for sure. Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we actually had this conversation a week ago, earlier this week, about if for some reason Cultural Keeper doesn't need to exist anymore, what do we do? I don't think we came to like a kind of solid conclusion yet or answer yet, but I think it's too right now it's just like we need it, so we don't really know what'll happen if everything works out and we no longer have a need for it.
I think what had, at least how I view the growth of these initiatives coming from, it comes from many, or I would say a solid chunk of our cultural heritage motherships, the national organizations. Many of them have been focused on supporting the labor versus the laborers, right? Which is why I'm very grateful National Council on Public History has invested to efforts like the gender and sexual harassment report data. Highly recommend diving into that devastating report if you haven't. Right, but like not all organizations have chosen to recognize there are people behind these projects and we need the support, which is why this is so beautiful that you investing your energy. It also ties to, I think, some of the ways we have been taught through our formal trainings that there's a scarcity of work and opportunity in cultural heritage, and therefore we're all in competition as individuals seeking opportunities, but also in competition for the grants and the funders, et cetera, et cetera. So, mutual aid is rooted in a sense of abundance, whether it's figuring how to abundantly split a bean across 10 people, versus hogging it to themselves. So I appreciate your reiteration of the value of community throughout this conversations. One of our questions.
Just as an aside, Sarah,
yeah.
I just wanted to quickly mention something that you said as an aside, and then we can move on. But I see that a lot with strategic plans that organizations are putting out. They're very forward or very public facing. What are we going to do for the people? And I'd like to see a push for strategic plans to also include some internal work as well. And I think that there's space for that. I just haven't seen it a lot yet, but that is something I'd like to see. To your point.
Yes, and I would be happy to talk to you for hours about strategic planning. I know Susan in this group would do that as well. Like, happy to talk about how our strategic plans have been great visioning sessions, but nothing much more than that in many situations. So one of our questions ties into, Shannon, I believe you were speaking about this, and I'm sorry if it I got this wrong, but there's the exploration of what professional development looks like, how to, resume reviews or workshops for that and everything. So one of our questions is exploring what non-monetary aid looks like, resume review, job consulting and coaching, even mindfulness sessions. Are you all looking to continue to grow those offerings? Or how are you identifying what are the high, and also how are you identifying the highest need or priorities for offerings of the non-monetary avenues?
Yeah, that's actually it was on the website in terms of acts of service instead of it was like the mutual aid fund and the acts of service. That again is directly inspired by the Montgomery Mutual Aid Fund, which is not dealing in money at the moment currently. For the most part, it's mostly just dealing in literally in acts of service, and that they curate a Instagram, and whenever someone contacts administrators there, it's like, hey, so and so needs a babysitter who within the aid network and can show up for this person. And so that's like the step two of what we would like to happen to happen with Culture Keeper is do as so as you whenever you contribute to the fund, there's also a question at the bottom that says, are there any other services or skills that you would like to lend to this collective group? And so that's what we're going to continue to collect that information and see where we can apply it. I mean, at this point, it's just a matter of capacity between the four of us, like what we can manage. I'm very nervous about whenever the money starts rolling in, we have to do the things. I mean, I'm not nervous, but I can imagine it's going to be a lot of work for the four of us to manage. So if anybody's interested in supporting us in that way or joining the team, by all means, let us know. We're definitely happy to have you. But yeah, it's literally trying to meet the need wherever it comes up, and what I like. That's just, how I was raised, and I think it's very beneficial for us to kind of adapt that mindset that we're not going to survive unless we're doing that for each other. I was literally just texting my friend. It's just a moment of transparency. I was just like, I feel like I'm giving a lot and not enough is coming in. He's like, well, you need to reevaluate that sort of thing. And so I'm hoping that other people maybe adapt to kind of that same kind of mindset, or in that while we do have to take care of ourselves, it's also incumbent upon us to take care of our neighbors as well, whatever that might look like. So yeah.
So what are you all doing to take care of yourselves right now? How are you all seeking to find that balance between community care givers and personal care? What does that look like? Are you creating processes for yourselves for how to say yes or no? Are you just going off of vibes based on how you feel every?
Shannon, you want to start? Yeah, go.
Sorry. Booted me off, but I'm back. Vibing and creating energy. Uh, I think that that's where we are, and to well, at least that's where I am. Is I felt really motivated because I knew Gerald and his experience, and of course, my initial thoughts like, how can I help? And so, it was never you know just about money, but like what are the skills that I have that I can offer, things that I'm doing already that I could just translate over that can really help support everybody, the collective whole. And excuse me. And in all my work, I take a holistic approach, and even in the professional development spaces, all those things. Um, Half day workshop, yay. Yes, we like I take a holistic approach at thinking about things because we're more than just our work, you know. We're human, we're experiencing life, we're moving through life, and yeah, I think it's important to address all those parts of us that make us who we are and how we do our work. Um, and so that is the part I would like to add. Hopefully that answered your question in between the two that you asked.
I can go next. I um, One of the actual tangible kind of small things I did was I took my email off of my phone, which was very hard for me to do, and kind of still kind of stresses me out. But I've my life has been so much better since I have taken my email off of my phone just because I realized I don't have the capacity to have it and not check it. So I was like, I'm just gonna cut that out. But also, and also full transparency, as a public historian in the South and as a Black public historian in the South, I found that I was being asked to do like sit on a lot of committees and do kind of a lot of panels and things like that. That as a young public historian or as a emerging professional, I was happy to do and happy to learn and just saying yes to everything. And I found that I was kind of half doing 50 things. Um, and I recently made the choice within like the last 2 or 3 years that instead of half doing a bunch of things, I can say no to things and go full in 100% on 5 things. Um, and so that's how I've been quite literally like measuring what other things have I said yes to whenever I'm asked to do something new, and then defining what capacity means to me. I think I have it in a journal somewhere, and asking myself, um, do I have the capacity and also do I have the want to do this thing? Also recognizing, I think Gerald mentioned before, like kind of this move toward individualism and people kind of weaponizing what self-care means. That sometimes you do have to be a little bit uncomfortable when you show up for people. So sometimes friends in your life will say, will you come to this party? Um, and even though you may not want to, because you value community, if you have the capacity versus want, if you have the capacity, you can still show up for them in that way, in a way that makes sense for both of you. So maybe you just show up for a couple of hours. That's a little bit of a tangent that has nothing to do with what we were talking about. But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think it's all kind of, again, echoing what Shannon and Harvey were saying about kind of finding that balance of what works for you. Like for me, a lot of it, again, with transitions and having like folks laid off from our staff, it's been a lot of kind of reevaluating what are the priorities and then what can I accomplish. Like I was reading a book recently that talked about kind of in this modern world we live with Sisyphus's inbox, where it's like almost an unachievable goal to like get your inbox to zero every single day at all times. And so that was kind of a big realization to me is like, even though it's my reaction to try to respond to someone right away, like maybe I need to take a second and, think about this or like Harvey said, see what I can do to put my full self into these different programs and initiatives. But that's also something that I've really have been working on kind of since the pandemic when we were all kind of trying to balance with that work-life balance in this hybrid space and whatnot. But still learning through that. What really works for me though is dedicating some time outside every day. It's whether it's just connecting from my phone, like we've been on these kind of calls and they've seen me sitting on my porch just because like I know Vermont summer is very cherished and it's already the leaves are changing. And so I need to take that fresh air and even if it's just me like walking outside in the morning with my cup of coffee, it's something that lets me reset and kind of appreciate where I am in this place. And that physical and spiritual sense of grounding has been really reassuring during these kind of uncertain times, as we keep liking to say.
I want to round back
That's
to
true.
something
We're
Harvey
both big
said.
gardener.
So Harvey mentioned how when we enter this field, we are trained to say yes to every opportunity, right? Because you network, because that's what's get you the job, that's what builds you your experience. And simultaneous to that, we are still in 2025 fighting against unpaid internships. That's ridiculous, right? So there is this devaluation of emerging professional labor while simultaneously relying heavily on emerging professional labor to achieve our organizational goals. And then these emerging professionals, if we look at times of crisis, like right now, where there has been a lot of layoffs, these are the individuals who are most likely going to be let go. So I know that we've talked about it in terms of like resume review and job coaching training. Like, great, it's good for people regardless of where they are on their professional pathway. But is there anything we should be considering whether we work with active students or recent graduates or anybody who's like, up to 10 years out of graduation, things that we should be considering, you think, as a part of our either community of care system informally or the mutual aid networks that we are looking to support in different ways?
I, Shannon, did you want to go? Sorry.
No, you go ahead, Jacob.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a really difficult question. It's a lot of different points to make within there. But I think one of the first things is just like realizing and making sure people know that they feel valued. Because that's one of the things, like, if we want to do our best work, we need to make sure we have a trusting environment and also that we feel like what we're doing is valued, whether by our supervisors or by our peers, just knowing that we have those people that can reflect back onto us like, yes, you have this skill set and you can achieve this. And making sure that within our community, we're supporting each other and not just kind of like making these kind of fake communities, like Gerald was saying, with kind of our tribalism and individualism kind of taking over what that sense of community may feel or look like. So I know that's not really answering all of the parts of that question, but that's kind of my initial thoughts there.
Yeah. I your question resonates with me deeply. Um, collective work, authentic and transformational collective work really requires trust, and everything happens at the speed of trust. And I wouldn't be involved with this particular group had it not be for the relationships and that trust. Um, One of the things that we were talking about earlier this year at an arts and health convening called Arts for Everybody in Dallas was about how institutions, as we know them, are changing. I think layoffs at some point, could be is like the beginning. And so how we do our work um, under like these bigger institutions that could look very different. But at the same time, I feel like this group, and we talk about culture, artists, culture, we are the leaders in reimagining of the possibilities of what could be and using our creativity to, rise to the occasion and meet those challenges. And so, when I talk about the things that I do, outside of my 9 to 5, which is doing the healing collective work and leading in community meditation and doing wellness workshops. Like these are things that not only feed my soul, but it's also something I consider like, what is it that I do next if, this, you know, I always say that the work that I do is my life's work, right? And it is whether or not the institution I'm working for is going to be a good partner. That is how I kind of move. And so the reality of situations, like a lot of these staple organizations, they're changing, but I think this is a natural response to um and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's it's a debate for another good day. But I think it is it is the creative process. It is the evolution of the work and how it shows up. And I think true collective work, you leave space to allow it to um, evolve and show up in the way that it authentically meets the needs of the collective. So hopefully that made sense. What I said, I feel like I said a lot. Not sure if I answered your question, but yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank all of you. I'm going to reshare the website for the Cultural Keeper Mutual Aid Network in the chat. And unless people have some final burning questions that are popping up, feel free to speak now, forever hold your peace. And by forever hold your peace, I mean send a nice email to these lovely people. right? How can everyone stay in touch? How can people keep up beyond website? What's the best way to be in the loop? And what can our lovely attendees do to help amplify your efforts?
Yes, thank you so much. I actually see some folks engaging with the website and the fund and right now. So shout out to you guys so much. Thank you so much for doing that. And just hopefully there was a way to as you collect those things, or as you engage in those things, we're collecting emails and we're actually about to start. I'd say we're about to start sending out formalized emails with like MailChimp or whatever like that. So stay engaged there. Also reach out to us via our social media. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We will be sharing a link asking people how they would want to be involved with Higher Ground Society in general. Like if you want to volunteer in some way, if you have some services to go toward the organization or the fund, it's open season. Because again, I've been doing this until these guys came along by myself for the most part. I mean, I have a board and they help out whenever they can as well, but it's kind of hard to I feel very bad or very I don't like asking people to help out without being able to give them something back, especially financially. So but I'm having to break that cycle because I ain't got no money and it doesn't look like it's coming anywhere anytime soon. Uh, so if you don't mind lending your hands to the struggle in some way, by all means, just reach out through our contact page. You can reach out to my email address. I'm going to drop it in the chat. And yeah, let's just keep this conversation going. I'm thinking maybe even having these. So again, with the humanities folks, just having a bi-monthly or 6 times a year, we get together and talk about these things and just like kind of commiserate or just share, like creating spaces for that. It's really, really powerful and helpful. High Ground Society has been doing freedom schools the last couple of weeks, which is why I've been all over the place in Alabama. And the recurring theme of people coming to the surveys are saying their favorite part is just the camaraderie and having space and people that are going through the same things they're going through or feeling the same ways they're feeling in this current moment. So I'm all about creating that space and definitely down to invite this community into that as well. And let us know how we can help you guys too. We're here for that.
Thank you so much. And like you said, making space for community so that we aren't feeling like a little island during difficult times. For everyone who attended, I hope you'll continue to look forward toward the Sustaining Ourselves series. The next ones are going to be the first week of October, first week of November. We're trying to stick to this first week thing. Then we're going to have a winter break and be back in February. And hopefully, I hope our Cultural Keepers Network folks will consider submitting a pitch for the NCPH conference next year. I think it would be really nice for us to find ways to continue this conversation in person because we know the work will not be done anytime soon. So thank you, thank you, thank you for making the space for this. And Angela Sullivan, Stephanie or Monica, can you answer her question about copies of everything linked in the chat via email?
I just saved the chat, and so when we send the recording out to everyone, we'll also compile all of the links from the chat for you as well.
And we'll post the recording of the event on the YouTube channel as well.
So everyone join me in unmuting yourselves and give Gerald, Jacob, Harvey, and Shannon a big old thank you. This was a wonderful way to spend a Friday afternoon. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you all for
Thank
your
you all.
time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining, everyone.